Hi there, I'm Jim Zirin. Welcome back for more conversations. With us is the distinguished writer Holly Peterson, author of 6 books and 4 novels. Her first novel, The Manny, written in 1927, is a satire of the lives of wealthy people in New York City. It quickly rose to the New York Times bestseller list. She followed The Manny with It Happens in the Hamptons and The Idea of Him, also novels of social satire. The Idea of Him is a love story of a woman who is trying to figure out if she's in love with the man or just the idea of him. Hilarious premise, full of ideas. Her latest release this summer has the seductive title of It's Hot in the Hamptons. It starts with 2 women sitting on a bench in Sag Harbor saying, "Let's have affairs this summer." What happens next? Do they really go through with it? This is one you can't put down. A former contributing editor for Newsweek, editor-at-large for Talk Magazine, and an Emmy Award-winning producer for ABC News, Holly has contributed to Town and Country, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and many other publications. She's also currently writing a weekend column on lifestyles for the London Financial Times. I am pleased to welcome Holly Peterson to this table.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So now you've written fiction and nonfiction.
Yes.
Which is tougher to do?
Well, I always say fiction brings you closer to the truth, because as a journalist, you're constrained by interviews and what people say, and if you were there, if you weren't there. And when you're writing fiction, you can actually be at the dinner party, you can be at the boardroom table. And as long as you're writing in a way that reflects reality, which I do because I've been a journalist for 30 years, I fact-check my novels.
Fact-check your novels?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you fact-check a novel? It's all made
Because you're
up.
referring to how much a roast costs at Lobel's Market on Madison Avenue. You got to call them. You can't make that. You can't make up anything. Otherwise, it isn't authentic or truthful. You're going to lose your audience. That's why so many things about rich people get silly, because people imagine this nonsense that isn't truthful, and then it becomes silly caricatures. I write truthful fiction.
All right,
it's
so
very realistic.
Now you have written 2 novels about the Hamptons, that emporium of wealth on the eastern end of Long Island, where masters of the universe convene and tell each other how rich they are. What fascinates you about the Hamptons?
A summer community has testosterone-fueled inequality in it, because you have a vibrant local community that lives there all year round, right? No matter what the summer community is. Even
Testosterone-fueled, not estrogen-fueled.
No, testosterone-fueled, because the difference is so enormous and so hypercharged between the haves and the have-lesses, right? That it's absolutely ripe for parody and satire. I mean, in a summer community like the Hamptons, you've got teachers and vintners and architects and all kinds of people that live there all year round. And then you've got these summer people that come in like an invading army, as you know well, expecting the world to be handed to them on a platter. And the tension between the locals and the summer community provide great everything. Tension is the lifeblood of a writer. It provides obnoxious moments. It creates, great sex scenes, arguments that are really about much more than whatever they're arguing about, that are arguing about inequality and entitlement and someone's character and how you treat people and what you expect of people and, all kinds of things.
So tension is the lifeblood of the writer. How does this clash play out in
my current book?
In your current book?
Well, in my current book, I always write about the wealthy, because They
wear better, Fitzgerald
You know
said.
what? It's just what I do. I grew up in New York. I grew up with a banker dad and a rather privileged situation, and it's something that I know. And writers write best about what they know. And there's not a lot of authors and journalists out there who grew up the way I did. And I see stuff that is so outrageous and so outlandish, and I'm always looking for a good story, that I feel I have to report on it. So as I was saying at the beginning, when I write a novel or when I write a column for the FT, I do it the same way. I'm trying to expose something that is outrageous and interesting and hilarious and sad and tragic and all kinds of things all at once.
So Fitzgerald also said the rich are different from you and me.
Of course.
How are they different?
They're different because they're so neurotic,
Neurotic?
Oh,
you mean
yeah.
a truck driver or a plumber isn't neurotic?
I believe that wealthy people in New York are a particular brand of rich people, very worthy of satire, who are unique in their sense of never having enough, total entitlement to have what they want, when they want, how they want, status seeking, relentlessly seeking attention and recognition, not happy with what they have, and often not very elegant about what they have in the face of others who might have less.
Now, many of them are highly competitive with one another on Wall Street. I get that. But then they go out to the Hamptons. They're supposed to relax.
No, it's even worse.
They're supposed to lie on the beach.
Of course.
Like
Rich guys at
whales.
play? Are you kidding? It's even worse.
But what happens out there? What happens to them?
People want to, rich people, you got to think about them as like a pack of dogs. They want they sniff each other out, and they want other people to know who's the alpha dog and who's the boss. And there's various ways of doing that are not actually that subtle. You can do it by what car you drive. You can do it by what house you live in, by how much art you pack in the house. But if people don't see you drive and they're not invited over to your house, then it has to be glided into conversations so that people understand your wealth and your stature and where you come from and how far you've come and what your station is. It's a bizarre thing among rich New Yorkers that I love to look at and write about and parody and tease.
Tease. Well, you certainly do tease. What about celebrities in the Hamptons? Spielberg is supposed to be out there, Zucker and Martha Stewart. If I were to walk on the beach in Watermill or East Hampton, would I run into them lying on the beach like beach whales, or are they in hiding?
Hollywood celebrity is different. You have Madonna in the Hamptons. You have Jay-Z in the Hamptons.
Jay-Z, he's my namesake.
Oh, exactly. And so much like you. You have Renee Zellweger, I think I've seen in a bar a few times. You have some Hollywood out there, but I think Hollywood neuroses and Hollywood need for affection and recognition is somewhat the same, but that's different. Hollywood needing to act, needing applause, it's the same type of thing, but it's a very different group of people, and I would say different social mores and different behavior patterns, if I'm speaking as an anthropologist.
Now, is there mating that takes place in the Hamptons? I mean, or coupling up? I mean, suppose a master of the universe ran into Renee Zellweger in the bar. Would he go over to her and say, "Hi, I'm worth $1 billion, and may I buy you a drink?"
He probably would. He wouldn't say, "I'm worth $1 billion," but he would start talking about his pilot.
His private plane.
Yes, and he would start letting people, as you and I have said in the past, when anyone starts talking about their pilot, what they're really saying is, I spend $80,000 on a round trip airfare instead of $600 or $500 or $800. That's what they're saying. So when they start name dropping their pilot or saying wheels up, which is pilot's lingo for takeoff time, when they start name dropping all that, they really only have one goal in mind. They know you don't care about their pilot. They're just trying to get the other person to know that they're super loaded.
I think you wrote about some guy out there who was complaining that his pilot didn't know how to make a good sandwich.
Exactly. So, I write...
what would Renee Zellweger think if I were to tell her that my pilot doesn't know how to make a good sandwich?
I mean, women are pretty turned off by it.
Oh, they are?
Irony, yeah. I do this column for the Financial Times, and we decided to call it Wheels Up, right for that purpose. It's about wealthy people, how they live, how they love excess, how they misbehave, and kind of the psychosis of success and money and power and how that all intersects and how it works on the inside. And so we thought calling it Wheels Up would be apt because it's really like going aloft with these people.
So let's talk about It's Hot in the Hamptons.
Okay.
Is it hot in the Hamptons or is it cool in the Hamptons?
It's always hot in the Hamptons. It's always hot in the Hamptons.
Hot. Now, what do you mean by hot? You mean sexy? Or
yes.
Sexy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sex sells. What do you think?
Sex sells.
Trying to sell books.
So you wrote this storyline.
Yeah.
And tell us a little more about it. Two women are sitting on a bench in Sag Harbor.
Okay. Let me explain a few things to you.
Two white girls sitting around talking.
Here's what it is. When I write a book, I take it like a cover story to a magazine. I have a theme, that I believe is fresh and needs to be exposed or needs to be examined in some way. I don't just say, let me do a story about boy meets girl and girl, whoever gets who at the end, whatever all that stuff is. I don't approach it that way. I say, there's this thing going on in society, and I can fictionalize this whole thing and say a lot about where we are right now in, 2019 in ways that I want to, that I think and hope people are interested in. So when I wrote Hot in the Hamptons, I really wanted to write about women, sexuality, and the Madonna whore complex. I wanted to write about...
What's the Madonna whore complex?
Okay. The Madonna whore complex is something that men do when they look at women, and some women do, in the sense...
Not all men.
Not all men, no, and not all women. But men in general, or some men, or a lot of men, feel that when a woman is very sexualized, it's easier to label her as kind of slutty, over the top, dangerous, sometimes deranged in a way. I mean, this is why people get punished. Women get punished for adultery and for being sexual in a lot of countries, and certainly in our country's past.
And certainly in literature.
And certainly in literature. My
Anna
God.
Karenina was
Anna
punished.
Karenina jumps on the train tracks. Madame Bovary guzzles arsenic. I mean...
Well, she ate arsenic.
Well, whatever. Okay, But so funny. And, women get punished for being
Hester
sexualized.
Prynne wore a big scarlet
Exactly.
letter A. All right,
Scarlet letter A.
All right, so they're both all stigmatized women. So here are your two women.
And I didn't want to do that, okay? I wanted to write women characters who were mothers.
Mothers?
Who were sexual and married outside their marriage, because I can't think of a movie or book that's really examined that deeply. And
these two women are in their 40s, aren't they?
These two women are in their 40s.
Now, you've said that's a dangerous time.
It's a dangerous
time. I think
time.
the grandmother of one of the women says it's a dangerous time.
You read my book very carefully.
Yes,
You're a very
did.
good journalist. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Not
the
a
40s
good journalist. I was fascinated.
Okay.
I mean, I thought I was getting ready for a sex scene, so I really wanted to get into it.
Okay, so going back to the thesis, okay? People look at women as Madonna or whores, as women who are mothers, who are good women, capable of, immaculate conception, all this stuff, or highly sexualized, right? It's very seldom that you take a mother who's a good mother and a good wife that's portrayed in literature or film as also having a hot affair on the side and okay, and still a good mother and still a good wife. Because men do that all the time, right? Men have affairs and they're seen as bad boys and virile, and they're so bad when they go to Vegas.
So you think there's a double standard?
I think there's absolutely a double standard, but more than a double standard, and I think more interesting than a double standard, is that how do we look at women who act on this the way men do? What happens? What happens to the women? What happens to their relationships? What happens to the husbands that find out? What happens to them themselves in terms of beating themselves up or being angry at themselves or feeling ashamed? What happens to their sense of liberty to do exactly what their husbands are doing? I mean, what does it all mean when you're a good mom and you're a good wife and you stray? Now, I made it both these women strays because their husbands strayed. I'm not pro-affair, but I wanted it to be...
You're affair neutral.
Yeah, I'm affair... Well, I don't think affairs are great things in any case, but if the husbands are doing it, I wanted to give the reader a reason to say, okay, maybe it's fair that they do that. It's not just being disloyal.
In fiction, you do fact-checking.
Yes.
Are you aware of any situation in reality where two women sat on a bench in Sag Harbor and said, let's have an affair this summer?
I'm not, but I can imagine that, right? And that's why fiction is fun. It's plausible. And that's why fiction, in the end, though it's lonely and difficult, is in many ways more fun than journalism, because you get to imagine these things and play out, in my case, extremely realistically and factually, as best I can, what might happen. So that's why I wrote this book. I believe we live in a world that is not terribly comfortable with women's sexual agency, them being in charge of what they want to do.
What is sexual agency?
That means a woman deciding whether she's married or not married or in a relationship or young or old or really old, deciding this is what I want sexually at this point in my life, and this is what I'm going to do to get it.
So you see
I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing for a man or a woman.
To be in charge of their own sexuality.
Yes.
Pretty basic.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic to have her in charge and not have a man that she's with or another woman, saying, no, this is the way it's going to be. We're going to be in an office and I'm going to tell you to do this if you want to keep your job, or we're going to be in a relationship and this is how I like sex, so this is the way we're going to do it because I'm the guy and I'm stronger, or a million reasons that women aren't necessarily in control of how their sex lives play out.
So Carolyn and Annabelle, your two
Yes.
characters, and the principal one is Carolyn.
Yeah.
And she fascinated me throughout the book. But do they both go ahead and have affairs?
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
And so what happens? Are they
Well,
glad at
I'm
the
not
end they
gonna-
had them? Don't give it away, but
I'm not going to give it away. They do it and they question themselves and they try to cover up their tracks, and it allows them both to have a clearer look on what their husbands have done all along and what they think of their husbands, and do they want to stay with their husbands? It kind of opens up a lot of possibilities about new avenues for their lives and ways to find kind of a weird sense of parity with their husbands, which means a weird sense of equality. And as I said, I'm not pro doing all this, but I wanted to write a book about all this because I think it's interesting to people.
do you think it's possible in a marriage to have an affair and keep the marriage together?
I don't really think it's very easy. I think what happens is the scar tissue is so immense that it's really hard for the other person not to bring it up at every other meal or every other cocktail situation. I mean, I think it's extremely difficult to get over. So it's not necessarily without reason that it destroys relationships and really complicates things. That's why I say I'm not for it. I don't think it's easy to do.
Even if it happens in the Hamptons?
Even if it happens in the Hamptons.
Yes.
It's just the Hamptons is a fun environment within which to write because, as I said, it's a testosterone-fueled summer community. You have the haves and the have-lesses or the have-nots. You have them all clashing up against each other with the same force as the Atlantic waves before them. And, it gets like currents in the ocean. It gets super, super messy. I mean, the rich guy who's like trying to be down to earth because he grew up with nothing and hang out with his contractor, invites him for a drink. And then, you know what? He doesn't treat him well when he invites him out for a drink. He, gets cheap on the beer. Or he wants him to go after a drink and not stay for dinner, or brings up the shelves that, he screwed up on just to show the power. I mean, it's not easy for people of different incomes to perfectly socialize with each other or to work with each other.
Okay, so you're a feminist, right?
I'm a very radical feminist.
Radical feminist.
Yes.
And you wrote, would you characterize
And
your,
I think that's
your
a good
books
thing.
as radical feminist books?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a radical feminist in that I believe that women should do what they want to do in life the way they want to do it. And they should have the power to do that. And they should find situation, and we should all, men and women, create environments where there's equality between people. I mean, the reason all this stuff, James, is so interesting because it all brings up greater issues about society. Is inequality in our country that is getting so massive, is that a good thing in any way? No, it's not good for anyone.
Well, you're talking about
Right?
economic
Yes.
inequality and inequality in the workplace.
Yes.
And all very important issues.
None
Gender
of it's
inequality.
good. I don't believe any of it's good. I don't believe any of it helps even the people at the top. If there's massive inequality and you're at the top, you're living in a much more fragile economic environment. It's much harder for you to do business, right? If you're in an office and you've got exactly the same type of person working in all the echelons of power, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Something's going to happen where you're insensitive to a group of people and you're going to get pilloried in the press, or you're going to ignore a market because you don't know anything about it because you don't have that voice at the boardroom table, or you're not going to recognize something you have that can help a whole other market that's right before your nose because you don't have that whole other market, as your director of retail or whatever. And so being inclusive, I really philosophically believe, makes the circle stronger, as kind of dorky and corny as that sounds. If you think of society as a circle of people holding hands, if there's weak links, the whole thing doesn't work as well. If people around it are comfortable and have agency and can control a lot of aspects of their lives and can get what they want, maybe it's just a house, it's not a plane, but can do that, everything works better for everybody.
So are the strong links the women and the weak links the men?
No, men
Not
can
at
be
all.
strong too.
Men can be strong too?
Yes, I'm not anti-man.
Okay,
No,
well-
no real feminist is
No real feminist
anti-man.
Well,
I don't believe.
let's go back to women in their 40s.
Yeah,
Women on the verge.
women on the verge.
Is there a vaccine to prevent them from making some fatal mistake?
I think women in their 40s.
What's wrong with them?
Well, it's the same thing as men in their 40s, right? Like, people in their 40s reevaluate a bit, and that can cause dangerous situations. In your teens, you're just a big hot mess, right? In your 20s, you're trying to figure out who you are and establish yourselves and find a mate. In your 30s, you're sinking your teeth into your job and your marriage and your kids and whatever situation you've chosen, and you're too tired to even think about, was any of this a good idea? You hit 40, whether you're a man or a woman, and you say, wait a minute, my wife or husband bores me to tears, or I hate my job, or I'm going nowhere and this sucks. Like, it provides a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of perspective from which to say, oh my goodness, I want to change things. And when that happens, causes dangerous situations. It can be sex, it can be leaving your job, it can be sleeping with a yoga teacher. For a lot of men, for some reason, that seems to happen a lot. It can be all kinds of things. But I think it's mutual. And I think women in their 40s are kind of done with the kid thing. So it's a special brand of wanting perspective or wanting new things.
Holly, let's talk a little bit about the process of writing.
Okay.
How long did it take you to produce this wonderful book?
I mean, my first book I wrote in 6 months at night with a full-time job in my 30s having kids. How I did that, I have no idea. I just wanted to write about a male nanny on Park Avenue, and it like puked out of me on the page in 6 months. My second book,
That's
I didn't.
a recipe for a bestseller. Let it puke out of you.
Go figure. My second book, I worked on for 3 years with no job and was just an immense struggle. Third book was about a year. Fourth book was about a year. Takes me about a year, and I get up at 4 a.m. and I make tea and little banana and peanut butter hors d'oeuvres, and
Banana and peanut butter
Yes.
hors d'oeuvres. Wow.
little round things with peanut butter.
Like to taste them.
They're excellent. And I write for 3 hours, kind of with a candle burning, and I turn off the email and I turn off the internet, and the house is asleep, and the kids are asleep, and the dogs are asleep, and I get a real 3 hours of excellent work completed with the world not bothering me.
And you're banging this out on the computer.
And I bang it out on the computer, and then I go to the library for another 3 hours at some point during the day. And there's a great program called Mac Freedom where you can turn off the internet
Turn off the internet.
on your computer. So you can't get it back on without turning it on and off. It's like a whole thing getting the internet to work again. And you set it by time. So I go to quiet places and I turn off the internet. And I don't write at, when I'm super frazzled, because it's just not going to work.
And you do this fact-checking on the internet?
I have to, yeah, but I can do that later. I write, journalism is there's TK, which means the facts will come later to come later. So I put TKs all over my fiction manuscripts, meaning I'll figure out who was president then, or I'll figure out how much a surfboard costs, or I'll figure out how much a private plane to, Hong Kong is.
Well,
I'll do that all later.
Are you working on another book?
I'm going to do a book on the art world next.
On the art world?
Yeah.
Sex in the art world?
Definitely. Definitely.
Sex in the art world in the Hamptons or somewhere else?
Probably in the Hamptons.
Probably in the Hamptons.
My publisher likes me to stay in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
So
Well, if it
my
works.
last book at Hot in the Hamptons,
Shoemaker stick
happens
to your
in the
last,
I
but-
know.
That's marvelous. But
Yeah.
there is an art world component in the Hamptons. There's never been Jackson Pollock. And,
Well, there's a lot of great
Krasner,
artists that live there.
de Kooning.
Yeah, de Kooning and Pollock and all those people. But the art world, again, is another microcosm through which to view the frenzy in which we live these days. The trying to get the thing first, the trying to know the thing first, the rushing after something because you saw it on Instagram and you don't even know if you like it, you just want it, the desire among the wealthy to expose their wealth and to show their culture. There's all kinds of
Conspicuous
interesting, conspicuous consumption themes. And there's also, I was talking about this with my daughter this morning who's applying to colleges, and I explained to her, I said, the most interesting person often doesn't win in the end. The greatest artists don't get recognized, and the greatest writers don't get recognized very, very often, unfortunately. And bestsellers and hot artists and, blockbuster movies are not necessarily the greatest pieces of culture and art.
But some of them are recognized. So I have a question for you.
But some of them are, yes.
Yes, some of them are. So
obviously,
I have a question
thank God.
for you.
Or it'd be the end
Holly
of society.
Peterson, I have a question for you.
I'm listening.
And the question is, what goes into someone being a good writer?
I mean, I think I'm a good writer. I don't think I'm a great writer. I'm not a literary writer. I think I'm good at depicting what the scene is and using kind of concise short sentences to kind of say it as it is and not be scared to say it as it is. But, I think you have to really think about your audience. And are you boring them? And is this worthy of their interest?
So the key to it is thinking about your audience.
That's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to entertain and keep the pages turning. Yeah,
okay.
I really do.
This has been wonderful. Holly
Thank
Peterson,
you.
thank you
for
so
having
much
me.
for coming by. And thank you for coming by. Tune in next week for more conversations. Don't forget to catch my book, Plaintiff in Chief, A Portrait of Donald Trump in 3,500 Lawsuits, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or your favorite bookstore. Take care and all the best. I'm Jim Zirin.